Kristen Jenson, how are you?
I'm good, Matt. So
Good.
great to be here with you.
God bless you. Thank you for joining me. We could not be together today, obviously, so we are doing remote. If there's ever a point when we can get together and do a live interview in person, that would be wonderful. But listen, I've been working really hard with state legislators and other people in the state of Idaho to warn, educate, and protect Idaho families and children specifically from risks of online predation, risks of pornography. The risks are so numerous, and they've been exponentially grown with the inundation of our schools with tech. One horrific this just shocks me. One horrific story I heard recently was from a state elected official who was saying that this person's neighbor or friend, I believe his friend, has a son in the school district, and the son was given this Chromebook over the summer because the school district that my kids go to, or one of my kids goes to, just gave out the Chromebooks over summer and just said, here, you can have the Chromebook over the summer, keep it safe, like don't let it break, and then just bring it back. And they also let the families know that they were no longer aggressively monitoring the Chromebooks with the exception of like suicidal ideation or self-harm. So if somebody starts looking up how to like commit suicide, then they'll let the parents know. And it turns out this kid took this Chromebook that was administered by the school, state funded, took it home and just spent his entire summer watching pornography, like horrific, violent, crazy pornography in his room alone. And the mom didn't know the Chromebook was capable of doing that. There is a monitoring system called Go Guardian on the Chromebook, but my 7th grader can blow past it in 15 seconds. And so it's this imperfectly protected, really dangerous piece of tech that led to these things, happening. Talk to me about how you got into this, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, well, it was never a life goal to do the work that I do, which is the books that I've written and the website, Defend Young Minds. I started because I met a woman who had a large family, and her son, 17 years old at the time, they found out that he was looking at pornography, but also that he was molesting his younger brothers and sisters. So from the 14-year-old down to the 4-year-old. And this was going on. They tried to stop it, but eventually they just had to prosecute him and get him out of the house. And it had some really bad fallouts. And so she was telling me about this really terrible situation. And I woke up the next morning and I just had this persistent thought kept coming to me about, how are we going to warn the young children? Because I could see that it started when they were young and they had access to the internet. And so I thought, okay, I'm just going to go on Amazon. I'm going to find a book and I'm going to buy it. I'll give it to her. And, I will have helped her. And I couldn't find anything. And then I was just like alarmed. I started doing some more research, and I just had this crazy idea to write a book, a read aloud book, so that parents could, read a book to their children to warn them about the harms of pornography in a very age appropriate way, in a comfortable way, so that they could begin that conversation. So that was, over 12 years ago, and Good Pictures, Bad Pictures has been a #1 best-selling book on Amazon ever since. And also, then I was asked by parents coming to me saying, do you have something for younger children? Which was shocking to me, to be honest. But then I looked around and every kid's on an iPad, seems like. Not every kid, but a lot. And so I understood why these very proactive, concerned parents wanted something, to begin the process of, protecting their children from pornography. So Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior was born. And I've got other books now, but those books have helped, hundreds of thousands of families to begin a tough conversation, but that a conversation that's can be very protective if it's continued.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I was helping with two bills this year in the Idaho State Legislature. One, both were sponsored by Senator Kevin Cook, and he's very passionate about trying to protect young people from exactly what you're talking about. And one of the bills is designed to say, hey, look, if you sell a piece of internet-based technology in the state of Idaho, there's a toggle switch. If it's sold to a minor, the toggle switch just has to be on. And that's it. Like, that's nothing crazy. By the way, the tech industry descended on Idaho like vultures on a carcass. Like, you had people calling in that do not care. Like, it's not the ACLU that's calling in to care about, our rights. It's like Apple, it's, Google, it's these companies that are using the Constitution and freedom of speech against parents and legislators that are trying to protect young people, and they don't care. Like, there's zero concern.
Well, and their products were never designed to protect children. They were designed to give adults ultimate freedom and privacy. So when you go back in and try to get them to do the right thing, which they should have done from the get-go, knowing that these kids would have access, they're very resistant, and they will do anything to avoid. They will just do anything to avoid even the beginning of, I've seen this.
Right.
It's distressing. And that's why I hope that legislation can be enacted that will be protective of children. In the meantime, parents need to take action to protect their children, to build an internal filter,
yes,
a disposition, so that their children want and know why to reject pornography when they're exposed to it.
Yes.
Kind of like smoking, no good. Don't touch it. Don't do the tobacco. Don't do the cigarettes. Same thing with porn.
Yes. And to that end, and relating back to your story, in testimony, when he was presenting the bill and they had a lot of people come up and testify, one mother came up and testified that her son, who I believe was 8 at the time, had been involved in this horrific experience at school where these other 8-year-olds were going into this bathroom, and like they all got pretty much exactly what you could think of, just got engaged with all these terrible things. And once it was found out that they were doing this, everybody started picking, was like, whoa, how did this happen? And once they, figured it out, pulled everything apart, they realized that one of the 8-year-olds had been exposed to really extreme pornography and was then trying to act out this with other kids in the bathroom. And
Matt, that's totally normal and natural. Children have an abundance of mirror neurons in their brains, and this is how they grow up. This is how they learn to be adults, is to imitate what they see adults do. I mean, if you go to the toy store, you're going to see the little toy vacuum cleaners and the little toy, and you see these little toddlers, and they're following their mothers around, their fathers around, vacuuming or doing the lawn mowing or whatever. They love it. But it backfires when they're exposed to pornography, because they begin to imitate what they see. And I'll tell you, years ago when I got started, the statistic that was so alarming at the time was that 40% of child sexual abuse, 40% was done by other minors. Now it is 70%, 70% of child sexual abuse is done by other children. Why? Why has this been skyrocketing? It's porn. Porn is a perpetrator. Porn is teaching children to perpetrate on other kids.
And to be really clear, porn has always existed. Like, when the statistic was 40% of this horrible stuff occurring from other minors, porn still existed. And again, I'm not like trying to defend the porn industry. The idea is though, hey, look, if you're an adult and you want to get, as Senator Kevin Cook, your daily shot of pornography with your cup of coffee and newspaper, like that's, you do you, man. Like, and we could say a lot of things about the porn industry. But the correlation or the causation here is not that porn exists in the abstract. The problem is that children have access to it. That's the actual problem. And the entry point to that is technology that is either presumed to be safe, or what's worse in my mind with school technology is that they tell parents that it's safe. So there's an overt communication, which is like, hey, we have a monitoring system on this, right? It's like we have monitoring, and they know it's insufficient. And because of that, parents let down their guard and allow technology to be engaged with or behind closed doors in a way that is wholly inappropriate because of the myth of successful monitoring systems.
Yeah. That's why we are always saying, you do need these filters, you do need these monitoring, but you need the internal filter, right? You need the internal filter so that when these other systems fail, or your child goes out the door to somebody else's house that doesn't have any kind of protective filters on their technology, your child has a really good understanding of, what pornography is, why it's dangerous, and what to do when they see it. And that's in the Good Pictures, Bad Pictures books you find that it's a definition, a warning, and a plan. So kids are not caught off guard. You've got a lot of stories. I've got a few. I know a family where the mother was very, very careful. She practically did a background check on every family, with kids that her kid played with. But a new family moved into the cul-de-sac. And the little boy came up and, hey, can you ride a bike? And can you play? And mom was like, oh, I haven't checked him out yet. But if you're just going to go get his bike and come back and ride around the cul-de-sac, that's fine. So they go to his house, the new kid's house. But for some reason, they go inside, and the older brothers are there looking at porn. And they're like, hey, come over here, look at this, and they show the kids pornography. Thankfully, this young boy, like I think around age 7, which it breaks my heart because I have a 7-year-old grandson, he knew what to do. Like, he knew what to do. He knew what it was. He knew what to do to turn away. He came home and he told his mom, and they worked through it together. And she said, in a way, it was kind of a beautiful thing because our plan worked. He came to me, and I had positioned myself. The mother was saying that she had positioned herself and opened that conversation, and she was a safe person. So we definitely need the laws. We need the culture to change. We need more awareness on parents. We need parents getting angry and demanding change. But we can't wait completely for our kids. We have to help them develop an internal filter and protection and some, I call it digital defense skills, so that they aren't caught off guard and they know what to do when they are exposed to it.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the infant self-rescue programs for drowning?
Yes, that's a great analogy.
Yes.
That is a great analogy. And what's so interesting, Matt, is there are some people in like the child sexual abuse kind of prevention community that are like saying, no, we don't want kids to be the ones that are responsible for saving themselves. It should only be adults. And we're like, that would be nice if it were practical, but you can't watch a kid every single minute, right? So they jump in the pool. Right. It's so great if they know how to turn themselves over and swim a little bit, and at least breathe, right?
Right. Right. And again, to your point, it sounds like you can be as diligent as humanly possible with gates, with like it's very sad. One of my dad's friends had 5 children. One was a daughter, and she made it through a locked back door, a locked fence, like all of these things, and she ended up drowning in a pool. And so you can have like the example you brought up of the gal who's, doing background checks on people. It's like you can have all of these robust systems, and all it takes is like 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And I think I have focused a lot of my energy on trying to help parents understand where the access points are. And from a larger standpoint, it's like, listen, and specifically focusing on school tech, which is like, look, I think there's a degree of autonomy that parents will always enjoy and should enjoy, and even if it ends up with bad decisions, like, so for instance, like everybody knows the family where it's like they have the prom party, and like at the party the dad lets people have beers or whatever it might be. It's like, all right, you can like it, you can dislike it, like we're going to always have parents making those decisions. But the institutions we engage with, like schools, they should not be providing beer, right? Just like they should not be providing dangerous technology without warning people like, hey, we know this is dangerous. We want you to know. But one of the things that you engage in, which I think is really beautiful, is saying, look, if we start early enough, we can set up these early warning and detection systems so that it's not that our kids will never fall in the pool. It's not that our kids will never see alcohol. It's not that our kids will never see somebody trying to show them porn. It's that they will have sufficient spidey sense to be like, hey, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong here, and I need to talk to an adult. That's the instant like self-rescue, which is like, no. Perhaps there's a tinge of curiosity, but there will also be an action plan with that curiosity, which is like, oh wait, this is not good. Like I should get out of here. I have 3 boys, and so naturally, this is a very, very concerning topic with mine. And I noticed my oldest boy has a very strong sense of morality, even in a long-term setting. He came downstairs one day, one evening. It was like 9 o'clock. He was supposed to be in bed, and I think he was 11 at the time. And he was really upset about something. We're like, hey, bud, what is going on? Well, it turns out a year prior, he had been at this summer camp, and we told him he couldn't get anything, and he bought a snow cone at the snack shack, and he felt really bad about it because he didn't tell us about it, and he knew he wasn't supposed to do it, and he had to like get it off his chest. And that's a flippant, silly example of, like, okay, yeah, morality. But that to me really indicates, okay, if given the right direction, he will attempt to self-correct. He will have like oh, this is wrong, and he's going to be drawn to action. But it's arming him with that morality and arming him with that compass, as you do with young people, that allows him to find out what the right thing to do. Like when you find yourself in the situation that is not good, and it's not good, but you don't know what to do, and you're curious, it's like you need this overriding, like, no, find an adult. Like this is a dangerous situation.
Yeah, and in Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, the one for kids 7 to 11, we talk about not only what pornography is, but how it can make you feel. And it can feel like the pull of a giant magnet. So what we're trying to do is say, we know, it's normal to feel curious. It's normal to be kind of intrigued. However, these are the bad things that can happen as a result. So we want you to protect yourself and, to make a good choice. Because some kids, there are kids out there, the only way they're going to learn is by their own sad experience, right? But so many children, like you just met with, can, like you said, self-correct, can learn, can, if they're given a chance, right? When I'm caught off guard, I don't do very well, and neither do kids. But if we start young, and if we begin to have these conversations as soon as they have any access to the internet, and we guide them, right? We teach them, there's so many other situations that we teach our children what to do if they get in this situation, or, if you're out running, stop at the curb. Don't run into the street. This could happen. As soon as a kid is able to walk, toddle around, we're teaching them, don't run out into the street because cars, right? And kids still run out into the street. They still get kind of, but they can, like you said, learn to self-correct, to come and talk. But there are some parents that think, oh, if my child, first they have a couple of, if my child saw anything like that, they would definitely come and tell me.
Oh, they would. They would tell me.
No. Studies show that they really, don't, and they may keep it, to themselves forever. I've known grown men that told me about their porn addiction, and their parents didn't know anything about it. And so it's important to open up that safe space. Say, here, I know this is going to be a problem. I know it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And unfortunately, we live in a world that, yes, has wonderful things, but also some bad things. And I wish children didn't ever have to see these things. But if you ever do, this is what the plan is. And then you're going to come talk to me, and we're going to help you learn how to forget those images. That's another part of the plan in Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. We teach kids kind of how to forget. I'm using air quotes, right? Forget those images. So important that we begin young, and kids actually really enjoy it. They actually like to be trusted with this important information. And it's so protective. It's so helpful for those kids that, for every kid. Every kid is going to have curiosity. Every kid is going to be shown this at some point, stumble across it. So I don't think we can start early enough, to be honest.
And I think what you're saying here in particular is really important to realize, which is there's no one that's going to be able to operate in the contemporary United States, with internet connectivity that will not stumble on pornography, right? Like you think about the algorithms that most people engage with on social media, right? For instance, just take Instagram. I have an account that is not centered around pornography at all, right? Like I don't search for it. I don't spend time on it. I don't look for it. And every month or two, if you hit the Explore, like the search button, it will throw up the most hardcore, right against the border, images and videos where it's like, it was fishing videos and street food vendors yesterday. And if you close down the app and then open it up again, it'll go back to like my fishing videos and street food vendors, right? And it's almost like,
well, you're in the target audience,
right?
And so
it's almost like if they're tried, they're like, all right, let's just throw this out. Let's just see what happens. Like he clicks on it, like we'll change things up. But it's almost like they're just trying to figure out, okay, will this work or not? Is this person interested in this or not? And that's a reality for children and for adults alike. If you're engaging in this, it's essentially like, look, you should give your kid on internet connectivity and unfettered access when you're 100% ready for them to be watching unlimited porn. And that's it. And if you don't think they can handle that, then you should not allow them to have that access. Yeah,
I agree. And it's hard because, parents feel this peer pressure. They don't want their kid to be left out. They don't want, their kid to not fit in. So they give them an iPhone. And I get it. I'm a mom. I wanted all those things for my kids as well. But when you think about the long-term effects, it would be better if your kid did not fit in for a few years than to have, a porn addiction, or not just a porn addiction, because not every kid is going to get a porn addiction, right? Not every kid gets addicted, but they're impacted. And there's a whole new bunch of studies that show the link between watching pornography and really severe mental health disorders. So higher suicide rate, higher suicidality, higher depression, more depression, more anxiety. Um, so all connected, all associated with more porn watching. So it's not just addiction. There's so many harms um, to looking at pornography. It's so toxic when you think about, if you want your child to have a really wonderful marriage, where they have, and I know we know most moms will not come out and say, or most parents will not come out and say, well, I hope my kid has a great sex life when they're married, but actually we do want them to have a great sex
I
life when
want
they're
them to
married,
have a
right?
love life. Like I want that
Yeah,
for them. I
yeah,
want them to have their person, who's
yeah,
their person. And
right,
they fulfill each other. They become one. Like that's the whole nature of it.
yeah,
Like I know it sounds antiquated,
yeah,
but like
no,
I think about that exact thing. Like I want my boys to have their person and I want that person to
right,
have my boys. And like I want them to go through the world together and do the best they can together as a
right,
couple, not as this couple that's being augmented or manipulated by this nefarious, online world. To your point, one thing you said is like, look, not everybody gets addicted to pornography, and I think a lot of the conversation that most people have is centered around the young men consuming pornography or grown men, and that ruining their marriage as well. But one perspective that I also think is very important is, and again, I've never been a woman and I've certainly never been a young woman, but I do have friends that have, teen girls, and a perspective that it took me a long time to understand, or I didn't hear for a long time, rather, I understood it instantaneously, was look, imagine being a 15-year-old girl or a 12-year-old girl or some young woman who sees some version of pornography that happens to be hyper
yeah,
violent or hyper damaging or hyper demeaning or just like whatever you want, pick whatever, hyper, whatever it is.
right,
The idea that that young woman now has that reference point and say she never watches pornography again. So she's not addicted, but now she thinks that young men are going to do that to her or that they'll
yeah,
want to do that to her. And
yeah,
that is really, again, I've been
true,
told that is really scary for young women and it delays
yeah.
or can completely stop their interest in dating.
Yes, but on the other hand, there are studies that show that girls that watch porn become more sexually promiscuous or active at earlier age and do more risky sex acts. So there is that side, and there's also the side where you said exactly like that. There was a study years ago in the UK, and where they went and they talked to kind of like kids, 11 to 16, and they talked about porn, and these girls were like, I can't imagine my parents doing it like that. Oh my gosh. And then they were like, I don't think I'm interested. Like, so it does both. It can hypersexualize or it can actually like make them, like, no, off putting. I don't want, if that's what it is, I don't want that because, it is so disrespectful to women. And it's so interesting in an age where, we have made such strides for women in careers and jobs and all kinds of ways that we are allowing so much porn and nobody is, I would like more feminists to come out against pornography. But I wanted to tell you one quick story about a young man that I knew. Um, his parents had briefly talked to him about, pornography when he was young, and it really, really stuck. And so even as a sixth grader, his friends, and this is years ago, were showing him videos of pornography, bestiality, all kinds of horrible things. And he just was like, nah. And they're like, man, you got to watch this stuff. You won't know what to do. He goes, I'm good. And then they're like, yeah. I mean, they were concerned for their friend that he wasn't watching porn because somehow they thought it was like necessary. He said, I didn't want to watch porn because I didn't think it would be fair to my future wife. And that was a sixth grader. And so sometimes we don't like give our kids enough credit for the wisdom that they can have. But this young man, I think he just got married, I don't know, a year ago. I've kind of followed him, And what a lucky wife he has. What a lucky woman that he was married, because um, he was thinking about her. He was thinking about, now a lot of kids, they're not thinking long term. It's difficult sometimes for them, but at least he got a heads up, right? He got a heads up that, no, this isn't good for you and you should stay away from it. For him, that was enough to change the course of his life. Um, and so I love that. I love those stories, show that children really can respond. Now, is every kid going to do exactly what you ask them to do? No. Obviously, there are going to be kids that are going to test the borders. They're going to do, what they want to do. But I still feel in my heart and in my mind, I still really think that a child that has had a warning, a clear warning, and knows what to do and knows that you're open to talking about it is so much better off than a child that you've just never had that conversation.
I wanted to come back to something you said a couple minutes ago, which is peer pressure, both from young people, but also on adults, right? And in your conversations with parent groups and just the average parent trying to navigate this tech world, how does the peer pressure navigate into it? Because I think we all like to believe that we're better than our high school selves. I'm not affected by what my friends do, but this is something that still finds real representation, and it's like this entry point of well, everybody else is doing it, you should be doing it, and that does work.
Yeah, I kind of advocate that. Of course, this kind of comes naturally to me. I don't want to follow the crowd. Obviously, else I wouldn't have written these books, because it's kind of a crazy thing to do. But I feel like starting at a young age that parents should actually teach their children it's okay to be different. It's okay to be different. Hey, let's do something different that other families don't do. Let's go, whatever. Because to teach your child that their value really is internal and not dependent on what other people think of them, because we're all going to be in a situation where somebody doesn't like us or rejects us or whatever. And if we've learned that, okay, that's just the way it is, I think that is really much more empowering than I have to give my kid an iPhone. Otherwise, their whole childhood will be ruined and they won't be connected with their, other kids and, whatever. Now, we wrote an article at Defend Young Minds. We've written several articles about this very topic. There's one called Swimming Upstream, and it's all about how to kind of be the one that has either these standards or doesn't give tech to your kid until much later. We also had an article from a mom who got, I think, one of these phones, like a Bark phone, I think it was, and used it, but did not give it to their kid. It was sat on the counter, and it could be used when it was needed, right? And so they needed to take it to, if her son needed to take it to a soccer game, or if he needed, but he could still text his friends and they could plan get-togethers. So he wasn't losing out, but he also wasn't completely in. It was a great middle ground, a way for him to stay connected, but also, not be sucked in to a smartphone life, which is, I think, honestly, I'm an adult. I still have problems with, I had to take YouTube off my phone. Honestly, I cannot, I do not have power against this thing. I have to regulate it. I don't know where it is, but I have a box you can put your phone in. And when I finally admitted to myself that those algorithms and were smarter than me, and that they were incredibly good at sucking me in, when that finally when I finally just surrendered and said yes, then I was able to start really controlling it more. Our kids have, and I have a fully functional brain. Now, some may argue with that, but I have a fully developed brain, and those kids do not. So my thinking brain, as we talk about in Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, is an adult brain. But young children they're not fully developed. And the thinking brain is the brakes of the brain. So we need to teach them about it. We need to teach them to use the brakes. But these phones, just
it's too much.
Are really, it's too much. It's too much.
I actually about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I realized very similar to you. Now, the problem is I make clips for Instagram and YouTube and TikTok all day long, right? Because again, I rip content off the interviews and throw them out as teasers, or, like I'll do a 10-minute clip off of an hour episode about, the grocery tax in Idaho, like whatever it is, it doesn't matter. So I'm constantly uploading, but it's in my workflow, right? And as long as I'm capable of just like, look, I post and I ghost and I don't spend time on the platform, it's not a problem. So about a year and a half or 2 years ago, I realized that, dude, the algorithm got me. Like it had reeled me in. And I was watching this guy's content, and it was what I call IP capture. So what this guy would do is he would take a video that was already a very popular upregulated video. And these, I got a thing for like street food vendors in India. I can't help it. Like if you got something weird on a grill or like in a bucket that looks like nasty browns and you're serving it to people, I can't look away. I don't know, but I know this of myself. So what this guy did is he took those videos. Now he didn't make the original video, but he would take those videos and then he would do voiceovers, like he'd dub over them, making like commentary that was also hilarious. So his first barrier to entry was, I already have this hyper viral piece of content. That was the original video. And then he was very skilled in comedy, and he would speak over these things and, dub over them and make these really funny. So it was like these, and again, it was a IP capture with dual immersion. So I didn't just get the benefit of watching the crazy street food video. Then I got the humor, the other piece of cognitive benefit, which is his humor, right? So it was, again, dual immersion, multi layers of media. And yeah, I was like, oh my God. And literally I watched this and I would find myself watching this. So I would turn on Instagram to upload something really fast, and it would catch me. It would catch me for like a couple minutes. It would derail my whole workflow. Like it was over. And I realized this and knew instantly, it's like, look, you got a choice to make, man. Like, and this is not life or death, but it is going to really make your mission right now is going to become way harder if you don't get this together right now. And full stop. I had to unfollow the guy. I was like, goodbye. And I'd only been watching for a week, but in that week I was like, oh, this is derailing my mission. Like I got to get rid of this. And it to your point, it's not like I could have it on the Instagram algorithm. I had to get rid of it because I knew I would lose 45 seconds here, 5 minutes here. My head would go off task, all of these different things. And that's with me being this like ferociously disciplined, a dude in his 40s who knew what was coming. And I look at like my 11-year-old or my 8-year-old. It's like, they have no chance. They have no chance. They can't even stop messing around with their brothers when they're like supposed to be going to bed. They have no chance against this thing. And you have to help them navigate that from as early an age as possible. And we're talking about like silly games and stuff. Like if you're talking about pornography, they don't understand it. They don't know what's going on. It's going to make them think different things. Like they have no chance in the absence of adults that are training them in understood threat arenas. That's actually something that I want to come back to as well, that you brought up in the first couple minutes. We understand threat arenas as adults. Like I understand Costco. Okay. I'm not letting my 6-year-old, if I had a 6-year-old, wander around Costco unaccompanied for like an hour. Nobody would do that. And we wouldn't, because we collectively understand Costco as a threat arena, one that we can tolerate and navigate if we navigate our children through it, but not one that should be engaged with alone. We also understand a park as a threat arena or an Albertsons grocery store. And we train our children to address these things appropriately. The whole nature of stranger danger, that mantra from back in the 80s and 90s, and even now, to this day, it holds up, and like, don't take candy from a stranger, things of that nature. But that's because we understand those classic arenas, and those ways of navigating them have been this passed down cultural wisdom and just, knowledge. This is how you keep kids safe. This is how you teach kids how to drive. These are all dangerous places, but we navigate them. But this online arena is not one that parents have like, generational wisdom on navigating. Our children will, and our children's children will, but we are the first generation where it's like everybody has this tech that has all of these risks, not just pornography, but predation and all of these things. So like you obviously write books helping children understand the nature of, or not everything, but understand how to be self-correcting and self-saving when it comes to pornography. But do you focus on helping adults understand more conclusively the arena where pornography comes from, like that a larger kind of holistic view of the internet?
Absolutely. On Defend Young Minds, we write lots of articles on sextortion. We've interviewed parents who've lost their kids to sextortion. So people don't know what that is. It's an extortion situation where children are either they're approached on social media by a very savvy actor who presents himself usually usually to young men,
right,
as a girl, cute girl interested in him. And there's but this is probably some guy around the world, another country. And they get him to send a dick pic,
right,
or a compromised photo of themselves.
Yeah.
You can edit that out. They get him to send, a compromising photo of himself.
Yeah. And like, this is the reality. Like, we're talking about pornography. You're allowed to say dick pic because that's how it is referred to with young people. Like, this is a reality. That's what they're saying. They get any possible thing that you can think of that would make someone feel shame or embarrassment or motivate them to avoid doing the right thing.
Or they use AI. They'll take pictures from their social media and just use a Nudify app, which there's hundreds of them.
Right.
Use a Nudify app to produce a nude picture of them, and then they extort them. And they say, if you don't give me, money, if you don't send money, I'm going to show this to your grandma, your mom, send it to all your friends, because they've infiltrated the social media circle of this victim, because they've chosen the victim. They use AI tools. They're very savvy. And then these kids are in like this situation where I would rather be dead than have this shame, and then they say, kill yourself, because I'm going to release these photos, if you don't give me enough money. And they give them as much as they can, and then they don't have any more. And so it's terrible, what's happening. Again, if we can begin to talk to our children at a young age about these kind of sensitive topics, but we open up and say, look, if you ever make a mistake, we don't want you to make this mistake, because it's usually not a cute girl out there. It's usually
never a cute girl. It's never. You're not that special. Right. You're not that unique. And if it was a real girl, she would come up to you at school. It's never a cute girl.
It's never a cute girl. It's never, if you get approached, you're not somebody that looking right to make money off of you. Yeah. So this is how you respond to it. So we have several articles on sextortion on defendyoungminds.com, and just trying to help parents see all the problems out there that have to do with sexual exploitation, because they're all linked. Pornography is often made by people that are being exploited and trafficked. And I think that's an important point to make with kids as they get a little older. We can say, is it fair? Would it be fair if somebody, stole your sister and did terrible things and filmed it and then put it out, online to make money. And they would be like, no, of course not. That's terrible. So all of these women are somebody's daughter. All these women are somebody's sister.
Right.
So I feel like that is important to like approach it with a little bit older kids on a fairness level, kind of almost, is this just, is this fair? And they will respond to that. And there are so many ways that kids get in trouble. There was a kid in Utah a few years ago who at age 13 was playing some game. He was approached by some other kid, whatever, some person, and they got talking. He probably moved the chat to some other platform, like Discord or something. And then guess what? Within just a few days, this kid was making plans, and he left the home to meet this person. It was a guy, it was a man. I'm trying to remember the age, but I think he was in his 20s. And he took this kid and took him to traffic him or whatever, and he was gone. And it was only because they put out an APB, and somebody in a gas station in Nebraska saw this kid and alerted authorities, and he was saved. Otherwise, he would have been gone, long gone, and who knows what would have happened to him or where he would have been taken. So we think that kids somehow, like you were talking about the threat arenas, we think that kids somehow, it's just online. I mean, they can't come through the screen and grab my kid. Well, they can do it very close, and they share information. So they're like, well, what's the chance that some predator is going to know where my kid lives? They're very savvy at figuring that out from very little information that your kid might give, or that you may have given of your kid. Like, they can take a picture of your kid and find out where other pictures of him are on the internet. Like, oh, on Facebook. Oh, and anyway, you're up against incredible technology. And so anytime your child is online, it's a threat arena. It really is. And I wish more parents would understand that. There's the FBI put out, I think it was a year or two ago, they put out a special bulletin about a new, tactic that was being used in games. So a kid would be playing a game alone, and a whole group of people, I don't know, 3 or 4 characters would approach him in the game and start befriending him. And of course, these are not kids, these are adults. And then they start talking about, they start posting nude pictures and get him because of the peer pressure, and they normalize it. And so it's like, hey, come and give us a picture. And so there's just so many things that they're doing that the bad guys are out there doing, and they're so good at it. They specialize. They'll have a whole process, and they specialize in each part of the process of working with your kid. And your kid thinks he's talking to one person, and it's really a team of 3. I mean, there's just so much that kids are up against. They cannot handle this alone. They absolutely can't. And they get hurt. And so we need to recognize that. And going back to the point of well, my kid wants this and my kid wants that. It's like, my kids wanted a lot of things that I wouldn't let them have. Because I was the mom, right?
Yeah, right.
And I would say, okay, now for this amount of time, right? Yeah. From 0 to 18, I'm the mom, and I have a responsibility to you to try to teach you and guide you and parent you. Soon as you're 18 or financially independent, I would add that, you can make all the decisions yourself. Now you can do whatever you want for the rest of your life. And I would just be like this long, for the rest of your life. And, but right now, it's my responsibility to guide you. It's my responsibility to help you make good choices. But most of your life, you're going to be able to make these choices by yourself, and you'll have that freedom. But right now, you can't. So I think that parents need to feel like it's okay to say no, to stick to your guns and say no. And there will be, your kids are not going to be happy with you. But I mean, if your child is always happy with you, I don't know. I don't take that as a good sign, to be honest.
Yeah, your kid won't be happy either. Like to your point about this can't happen in the video game, right? Or this is just online. Nobody gets molested at the park. Okay? All that people do is they go to the park and migrate them into the van with candy, and then the van disappears. It's the exact same process online. Yeah. You're in a specific area that nothing bad can happen, right? Like say you're playing an innocuous game like Minecraft or Roblox that seemingly it's like, well, you can't say, no. These are
terrible. Bad things there.
No. There's terrible things. But the point is people are looking at this online world. They're like, nobody can touch my kid through the computer, right? They can't even send pictures through the computer like here. But all they do is they make contact, that initial contact, like, oh, do you want me to push you on the swing? Innocuous, right? You make that contact. And then a migration happens to a less safe app like Snapchat or Discord or whatever it might be, where you can start engaging either an extortion scheme or have anonymous communication with children. And then you can entice them out of that computer, digital world into the real world. And you get them to leave their family, just like leaving the playground to get the van. You get them to leave their family and meet you somewhere, and then you got them. So yes, you can't touch somebody through the computer, just like you probably can't molest somebody on the swing set, but you get them to move slowly with you away from the family unit and the protection of public until something terrible happens. It's the exact same process. And another very important point that you brought up, which is your kids, you can train your kids really well. Right. And your resources are a great resource for that. You can train your children very well. But participation alone on social media brings with it its own risks, right? Like the extortion schemes and sextortion and things like that. You can be a young gal or a young guy who literally just posts like, oh, here's me at prom. Nothing inappropriate. You're in your dumb, rented suit, whatever, or your dress. I don't know if ladies rent dresses, but I always had to go to like Felix's or whatever it was to like rent a suit, right? I always went with like the white jackets too. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So the point is like you're there and you post a dumb picture and then somebody takes that and makes compromising media. Now, again, the AI tools engaged are so sophisticated that whether or not it's you in naked, it doesn't matter because people will believe it's you. So even the most innocent of like, here's me with my date at prom, that innocent portrait picture and participation in social media can lead to a very successful sextortion scheme. And it's like that's what you're up against. Even if you train your children to never post anything bad, to never engage with strangers, never give up compromising media, just the innocent participation alone can and does lead to damaging exchanges.
Yeah. And there's some pretty crazy statistics from the National Center. NCMEC.
Yeah. Missing and National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Yeah.
Exploited children. And who say that, I think in one presentation I was at a conference recently, it was like 54% of teens on social media say that they've been approached, by a stranger asking for things. I have been.
Yeah.
I mean, if it happens to me, obviously it's going to happen to kids, I mean, honestly, and I know better to just, but yeah, so there's a
100% of adults have gotten the like, hey, Cheryl, like, are you picking me up at the airport? Or like, oh my gosh, sorry. She's like, everybody gets that.
I want to be your friend, and it's always
I'm
a
bored
picture
at work.
of
Who are you?
So we have to know the kids, we have to prepare our kids and also delay. Really, there's a saying out there, delay is the way. And Melanie Hempy of I think it's Screen Smart Kids. Anyway, she started this delay is the way. And it's, I think delaying. And then there's that book by Jonathan Haidt.
Yes.
I think that's the way it's
Generation, and he also has
The Anxious Generation.
Yes.
Yeah. If you haven't read that, definitely read that. So there's a lot of challenges, but we can help our children navigate all of this, and we can model it ourselves. We can model tech use ourselves. When my grandkids, I have 2 little grandsons, and when they're over, I put this away. I'm not on my phone. If I have to be on my phone, I narrate. I say, okay, grandma just has to, respond to this email or respond to this text from your mom or whatever. But for the most part, if I have my phone, it's taking pictures of them, which I cannot put on social media, right? My daughter will not allow me, and kudos for her, to put any, and this probably sounds extreme, but no pictures of my grandsons go on Facebook. If they do, they have a big happy face sticker on their face. That's the only way I could post pictures of them. She's being very, very conservative, very careful. And, as a grandma, I would really like to show how cute my grandkids are, right? But I'm glad that she's like holding that line. Yeah. I just asked her recently, I took one of the kids to a fair, and I just asked, oh, could I put this up? It's kind of in an anonymous situation. And it wasn't even going to go on my Facebook. It was going to go on the organizer face. No, we'd really rather not. I'm like, okay, I understand. So even me, like, but I do see the wisdom. We've got to be careful with our children, with their digital footprints, and with their safety, their mental health, their physical health. I wanted to kind of throw out another reason that teaching our children about the harms of pornography, teaching them, to reject it when they see it, is also a great way to help them stay safe from predators.
Yes. Because they don't like the taste of candy. You can't entice somebody with candy if they've never had candy. You can't entice somebody very easily with pornography if they're like, no, that's not my jam.
Well, and the kids, because it's the number one grooming tool. Right. So a kid will. So a mom told me this story where she and her family, they went over to have dinner with some friends, and just seemed like the safest situation. But they were doing some renovations, and they put all the kids' toys at the bottom of the stairs that went to the basement. And so the kids were supposed to run down quickly.
Basement. You never go in the basement.
Don't go to the basement. Went down, grabbed a toy, but he was there kind of deliberating. Yeah. And, a guy that was down there who happened to be renting the basement approached him, showed him gay porn on his phone, and said, hey, this would be really fun. And, started like connecting with him. And the boy realized, because his mom had read him Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, that, first of all, no one should ever show a child bad pictures. And so he ran upstairs, told his mom, pretty sure that was the end of that, dinner. But, he saved himself because he knew he knew, he could recognize this is pornography, because I'm seeing private parts, right? I'm seeing pictures of people's private parts, and I know that that's a problem. That's a danger. So he was able to get himself out of that threat arena that nobody even knew was a threat arena. But here's this guy. He knows the kids live, who knows what had already happened to the kids that lived in that house. So I have many other stories. I've had people come up to me at conferences. I remember this one woman said, "Your book saved my grandson from sexual abuse." And I remember it was like really soon after I'd published the book, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, and I hadn't really thought about how it could have this ripple effect, of protecting children from hands-on sexual abuse. And then I started to see that it really does. So if you're not concerned about porn addiction or mental health issues or all these other things, it will make your kid safer from pornography. I mean, from physical sexual abuse, and also from becoming, the perpetrator. We know that it is fueling this child-on-child harmful sexual behavior. I was going to a symposium that Defend Young Minds, we were helping to sponsor, and I was flying back, to DC, and sitting next to me was a gentleman. Oh, he's probably in his late 30s, and I got chatting with him, and he was a pilot. Private planes. And so he was actually flying back to do a job. And he asked me what I did. And this, I always like, oh no, I have to tell you what I do. Yeah. I'll do it really quietly.
I sell soap.
Yeah. And I told him that I'm going back to this conference on child, harmful sexual behavior, and that it's rampant in the military bases and all these things. And he looked at me after I talked to him. He looked at me and he just he said, "Yeah." He said, "That happened to me when I was a kid." And he says, "And I'm still not over it. Still not over it." What are the chances? What are the odds that on my very flight to a conference on this, I sit next to a guy that had this happen to him? Actually, I think the chances are pretty high that you're sitting next to somebody that's been sexually exploited in some way. So anyway, protecting our children from imitating this behavior, being clear, being forthright, it is going to help them, and giving them a heads up, so they know exactly what it is, what pornography is. They have a definition that's age appropriate. They know what to do. They know it's harmful and why it's harmful, and that you can build as they get older and older. You can give them more and more reasons, which we provide a lot of that on Defend Young Minds. And then a third, a plan. So they know exactly what to do. We have the can-do plan. In the book for 7 to 11-year-olds, we have a turn, run, tell plan in the younger book. And the can-do plan really does help a child know exactly what they do to do when they see it, and to know what to do when the memory comes back, because it's going to be shocking, and how to minimize that. There's a process that you can do, and it's all explained in the book of what to do to minimize. And it's really all about brain science. And it's very helpful to a child to understand how their brain works, how their brain reacts to pornography, so that they can overcome that, and they can grow up free from this entrapment.
God bless you, woman. That sounds fantastic. Listen, I want to be sensitive to your time. I really appreciate it. Is there anything we've missed today?
I would just say that, I know some parents are afraid to start this conversation because they're like, "Oh, my kid is so curious." That's the best reason your child is curious. That's the best reason to start this conversation because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Kids that are caught off guard get sucked in more easily than kids that have been given a heads up. And I would just say go to defendyoungminds.com. Follow us on our social channels at Defend Young Minds on Instagram, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. I think we're on Pinterest as well. And we have some guides, free downloadable guides on defendyoungminds.com that you can get. How to talk to your kid about pornography is one of them. We have another guide, what to do with, it's like, help, my kid saw porn, now what? And that's a guide that will give you so many like expert advice on what to do after you find out that your child has been exposed or has been seeking it out and watching it. We have expert advice on how to handle that situation in a way that's going to be positive and build your relationship and help your child, instead of, the opposite, which is to shut your child down. They never want to talk about it. So we have all kinds of resources. We also have a curriculum called Brain Defense, Digital Safety for Kids. So yeah, we just want to help. We want to help parents build an internal filter with their children so that their children can enjoy all the benefits of technology and not be harmed by it.
Man, we need more of that. Thank you for taking the time today. Thanks for what you've been doing. And I would love to do this again.